So, what would you say first inspired your love of music?
Um, Christmas songs, probably. Uh, all of those songs are really beautiful, and it was always really fun to sing them with people. And so, yeah, Christmas music, probably.
That's awesome. Yeah, with the holiday coming up, do you have any favorite Christmas songs?
Yes. Oh, I was singing one this morning. Um, I really like Where Are You Christmas? Um, and Hannah Diamond has a great version of that someone showed me recently. Uh, also, uh, tend to be a fan of like the really, really old ones. Like if a melody's from the 14th century, it's probably pretty good. So
Definitely.
yeah.
I like that. Solid picks for sure. I wanted to jump into talking about your upcoming album releasing in January, Blue Raspberry. Can you tell me a little bit about the process of making this record in particular?
Yeah, for sure. I'm really glad that um I kind of chose to not um really hire an outside producer for this record, um, but instead work with my band and like the who like engineered and produced the last record that or the first record that I put out. And it was really I'm really glad we did that. It was really just us, and it felt like there weren't any other like adults in the room, kind of. And they also are the people who have the most like patience with me in terms of completing something. And so I'm very grateful I did all that. Yeah.
That's awesome. Were there any major differences you noticed in terms of the sound doing that and deciding not to have an outside person?
Question. We definitely like it was like kind of the same people, but we had like way more resources, right? Because we had a much bigger record label behind us like before we started recording. And so we were kind of unused to working with like support and resources. Like it was kind of, like we were so used to like recording things in our houses and um using kind of just what we had, that it felt like it made it more difficult to like actually be able to go into a whole studio for like multiple days. I don't know. Yeah, it sounds, I don't think it sounds that different personally. But it does sound a little bit like prettier and bigger, I think, in places at least.
Absolutely. In terms of the writing process, what would you say first inspires when you begin writing an album, and what does that process sort of look like for you?
That's a great question. That looks like piecing together things I've had for a long time, usually. Um, Rely pretty heavily on my notes app. So yeah, usually when I sit down to write an album, I'm kind of just sitting down to finish things that already exist that I've been um tinkering with for a while, you know.
Interesting. Given that it's previous existing songs and everything, how do you sort of compile a track list and make it cohesive?
I don't know. Yeah, I have no idea. I didn't really intend I don't know. I didn't intend to write a lot of songs that overlapped or had like dialogue between them, but I uh they're all coming from like my subconscious brain at some point. So like they were connected. Like they were about kind of the same thing,
Right.
sort of. Uh, I guess just because like they were coming from the same place. And I wasn't really intending that, but like it just it just happened. But yeah. But there I mean like there were like there's a couple of songs that I just put on there because they're fun. Like Table, for instance. But yeah.
It makes sense. Yeah, I noticed that a major focus for this record is intimacy, and
Mm-hmm.
it said specifically exploring your first queer relationship. What was it like to sort of navigate this experience in these topics through your writing?
I didn't know that I was navigating them through my writing until after uh I'd written them, and then like after the queer relationship was, underway. Um, so it did feel a little bit like I wrote my way into it, kind of. Um, and yeah, it was it was kind of spooky how uh like prescient those songs were. I'm sorry, also, I've gotten like 3 hours of sleep last night for a dumb reason, which is that I drank half of a Celsius at a rehearsal last night. And I don't know if you've had one of those things, but I'm pretty sure they're going to be illegal in a few years.
I haven't, but I've heard they definitely keep you up, so I totally understand you're totally good.
It's insane. Yeah. Yeah, they're going to be illegal. I don't know where they came from either. It's just like all of a sudden everyone was drinking them and they look so bad. I'm like, who was like the first person in my like extended social circle to like look at that can and be like, yeah, I want to drink that. Like it looks like the vitamins that you buy in a truck stop that are like energy. Yeah, who discovered Celsius? Okay, anyway, thank you. But
You're
yeah,
good. I
listen.
had a friend who drank three in one day, and that was kind of concerning.
Well, now you know that they probably don't have like a heart condition of any kind.
Yeah, that's true, and good to know for them.
Good for them. You're in college though, right?
Yeah,
Okay, yeah. So probably kind of cardiovascular like invincibility to some extent.
a little
But
bit.
that is too many.
It is. It is. I also know somebody who drank 8 cans of espresso, so a little concerned.
No, that's like line cook behavior. That's not good.
I know. Given that you didn't know going into writing the music that it was going to be about this relationship in particular, what was it like to sort of decide what you wanted to share with an audience and what you wanted to keep to yourself after exploring these topics?
Mm. Yeah, so that's the other thing is I didn't really it felt like that decision was made for me because the songs were already done and uh it does feel quite vulnerable. Um frankly, and I don't love it all the time, but I think I don't know. I guess I just decided like, well, I said it in the songs, so maybe people won't make me say things in interviews about what happened. Like maybe I'll have to talk about it slightly less if it's really obvious in the song. So that's what I'm comforting myself with. That at least the gory details of that relationship are less interesting because of the way the song is written. I don't know if that makes sense. I actually haven't really thought about that until this moment.
It
Hmm.
does make sense, and I think that's a really interesting way to look at it, like you're putting it all out onto the table for people to hear.
Right. And then it's kind of like I've like maxed out my limit of like explaining what happened. So I'm just like, there it is. Like something like that. That's what was up. And I don't know. My mom asks me what lyrics are about sometimes. And I'm like, they're about what the lyrics are about. I wrote the lyrics as an explanation for what it was about. But that's just because she's my mom and she weirdly gets on my nerves in that way sometimes.
That's totally
That's
fair.
very
I
cute.
also wanted to ask how the music videos play into the meaning of the song for you specifically and how that ties into the whole creative process.
Oh, for like cubic zirconia?
Yeah,
Yeah, that was that was a really fun process. I really like music videos. Like, I feel like I don't watch them that often, but when I do, I really love them. And so I tend to like be really intense about music videos and like their connection to the song. And I'm not always able to pull it off, but like uh I guess I just want them to sort of like support the song like in a vibe way rather than like a narrative way. So like Cubic Zirconia is like a fun or it's like fun and gay and summery kind of. And so I we just tried to make something kind of like fun and gay and summery. Um
I think that absolutely translates when you're watching it. It's a fun music video to watch.
yeah.
I also wanted to ask about the table music video in particular, which I love, and the imagery of smashing the table. There's also a lot of religious imagery. Can you talk a little bit about that influence?
Totally. So I asked my like the oldest friend I have, her name is Lane Rogers, and she directed the video. I asked her to do that because, like, we went to high school together, and we've been friends for a really long time, and we come from the same religious context. Like, we share that more than anyone else I know, really, other than like my siblings. But like, I knew that that song was sort of this like, I think like actually not super straightforward like account of what it feels like to grow up in that context. And I thought that she would understand that. And she does, I think. And then also she understands that it's just a silly little song. And so she was like, well, you should just destroy a table. Like a lot of uh like people that have been in America a long time, but most of them, a lot of them were, all of them were Protestant, and a lot of them were like Quaker or like somewhere in that vein. Um, and that's actually like a section of the Christian church that I am really fond of still, and that I really with honestly. And yeah, so I like tried to sort of recreate like a vaguely historical feeling, sort of like costume. Um, I guess to acknowledge the the love hate bit. I don't know. It's not really love or hate, but it's just like admiration, disdain, tension in in how I think about my like spiritual heritage, right? Because it's like it's a lot of disdain. Like some of those people did horrible things, but there also are parts of that tradition that I uh find useful and kind of durable. So yeah, I don't know.
Absolutely. This might be a more difficult question, but what was it like to sort of balance during the creative process that religious upbringing and context with queerness and what it means to be queer?
Totally. Well, fortunately, I come from a family and I guess religious community that was never that freaked out about gay stuff in general. And my family, especially now, is perfectly fine and precious, and it is literally no big deal. Um, so they haven't batted an eye at anything that's come out around this record. And yeah, and I don't know. Even a long time ago, I didn't really buy the thing that I don't know, it just didn't like God having a problem with people being gay just never really made sense to me. So I
Right, me
never
neither. Never made sense to me either.
I'm like, I feel, yeah, I'm like, and even if he is kind of upset about it, I feel like if, I don't know, I feel like that's a more understandable mistake. You know what I mean? God's like, so actually, gay stuff, bad. And you're like, okay, totally, right? You are God after all. But, like, I was just gonna be like decent to people and not horrible to them. And that was the rule of thumb I was going off of. I feel like I would be like, right, sure. Yeah, that was definitely the better mistake to make instead of the other one
Yeah, I feel like that's a
where
good
you're
way.
arbitrarily awful to people.
Totally.
Yeah. That's just an imagined conversation with God I had as an 11-year-old, I guess, or something. I don't know. But yeah,
Totally.
doesn't
Yeah.
make sense.
I know you talked about how important the collaborative process was for making the music video for Table, but I know you also collaborated on the track Party of the Century with Christian Lee Hudson. What was it
Mm-hmm.
like to sort of create that track collaboratively and especially over FaceTime?
Oh, it was really weird. I quite honestly, I don't always know what to do when co-writing. So the way Christian and I did it was I think we just kind of like sat on FaceTime, exchanged a bunch of like one-liners, and they kind of like clumped together in a way that I found interesting. And I kind of like took those pieces, stitched it together, and like sent him a draft. And he was like, great. But he actually did, I think he forgot that we wrote that song because he texted me to double check like later. So
I think it's interesting that you especially split up specific lines. What was it kind of like to pair those together from separate writing and navigate what that looked like?
well, I mean, we both tend to write about similar stuff, kind of. I don't know. Christian's really good at like capturing like despair, especially. Um, or like emotions like that. He's really good at like capturing that in like really succinct little chunks of lyrics. And so I copped a few of those off of him and combined it and then like it kind of narratively made sense. Like it kind of had a structure to it, and so I decided it was a song. Yeah.
Yeah. I know that you just mentioned having a sort of narrative in mind. Was there any particular story that you knew you wanted to tell on Blue Raspberry?
On Blue Raspberry, yeah, I think I wanted to tell. I mean, there's like one or I think there's one or two songs that I finished after um my first queer relationship ended. And so Alexandria primarily. And so I guess like on Blue Raspberry I wanted to tell as much of that story as I could. Um and it is like very heavily about one person kind of, or at least that's what I think of when I think of those songs. I am thinking of that person. And so and like how it began and how it was in the middle and how it ended and uh stuff surrounding it. That was kind of tertiary. Um so yeah, I yeah, I guess I'm just trying to tell the story of that relationship with some fun embellishment to amuse myself kind of.
That
Yeah.
makes I know that Blue Raspberry was the oldest track created off of that record.
Mhm.
What was the meaning behind that title specifically, and what inspired you to call the record Blue Raspberry after that track?
Really. So I was thinking about how I was thinking about writing. It was like this thought exercise. I was thinking about like how I would write sort of one of those like longing, kind of sweet, male gazy, like country songs that are love songs that are about like a woman. Do you know what I mean? That like kind of sub genre. Uh, and I was thinking about like how I would write one of those songs because I lived in Nashville at the time. I heard that sort of thing a lot. And I thought about how the something I admire in people and like maybe women in particular is that there's there's just like so many different choices about how to present yourself like every day, and it's like very sweet to see like evidence of those choices, you know what I mean, like, and so I think that like valuing I just kind of came to this concept, I guess, of like um sort of like a disdain for the idea of authenticity as being better than like the technically unnatural or technically inorganic. Do you know what I mean? Like that Dolly Parton quote where she talks about it costing a lot of money to look this cheap, and like how she kind of like she celebrates like having big fake tits and like wearing wigs and having sort of like all of these like artificial like like physical attachments that like make up her image, right? And like that's kind of the most lovable thing about her in a lot of ways. Or like that's something that like it's really easy to like cherish in her. Uh that she is like so like joyful about playing around with like the way that she looks and not having any qualms about like wanting to like appease like what people or like appease people in terms of what they think is like natural or authentic, um and the way that she's never really cared about that is like I think people find it like really magical and powerful. And Dolly Parton's not the only one, but it's the only one I can think of right now. Anyway, I was thinking about uh like I was thinking about women who have that kind of magic and I guess courage about them, where they're not embarrassed about like it being evident that they've made aesthetic choices about their appearance and that they did think about them. And so yeah, and so blue raspberry being like an artificial flavor or something like that was just the best way I could think to explain that concept.
Definitely.
I think, yeah.
What is it like for you as an artist to have to balance your social media presence and your stage presence with authenticity and what that sort of looks like?
uh I struggle with the social media one way more than the stage one. Um, because the stage thing is like it's temporal and it's not gonna be around forever. Um, and it's really contextual and like I'm really just talking to the people in the room. Social media is kind of weird. I'm like I like didn't have social media until I was like 19 or 20 or something. Like I just didn't. And I like had a flip phone, so I don't love social media, but I also do love social media. And it feels like it grants me access to like the sort of like lunchtime chats and like just sort of like inner little musings of like brilliant people. And I do treasure that. I don't know. I don't know if authenticity is possible in those situations. Uh so I just try to make what feels like a good choice. Because the real me doesn't want to be on social media at all. So,
Definitely, I totally understand having sort of a love-hate with it, especially with how sucked in everybody is to social media.
oh yeah, it's not great.
Yeah. Going back to talking about the record specifically, would you say that there's a favorite track that you created off of the record, and why was it your favorite?
I really am proud of how the song Fences turned out, which is like the second track or something. Because it's virtually just the demo. I don't think that we changed anything about it. And yeah, it came together so quickly and so magically in a variety of ways that I feel kind of mystified by that still. So yeah.
Definitely. Sort of on the opposite end, was there a track that took the longest to get right, but in the end felt very rewarding?
Oh yeah, cubic zirconia for sure. Um, there's like three other versions of that song. There's other versions of all of these songs. Pretty almost all of these songs have a well a like vastly different version sitting on a hard drive somewhere. Cause I didn't know what I was doing and I was anxious, but I figured it out. But yeah, I think cubic zirconia took like by far the longest because the structure's weird. I don't know.
I get that, yeah. What was it like to sort of play around with such vastly different versions and kind of land on a specific one?
Horrible. It was um it was weird. I don't know. I would not recommend it. I would. It's fine. It's fun. Uh Playing them live helps a lot though,
It makes
in
sense.
terms of knowing what's working. Yeah. So
Is there a favorite track that you like to play live or one that you're most excited to play off of this record?
yeah, I love playing table live. It's kind of like the only time in a set where we're consistent. It's just a loud song front to back, and that's always really fun.
That is,
We toured with Illuminati Hotties once, or we opened for them like last year, and like every single one of their songs, like I could tell that their drummer was having like the most fun that a drummer can have. You know what I mean? Where it's like a fun, like kind of like glitchy little part where like they got to be like really locked in and they're like moving around and sweating and they're just like, oh my god, am I gonna do it? And like obviously they're gonna do it. And so yeah, and so I was like, oh, I should write songs that are more fun for my band to play. And so I think Table is the most like objectively fun to play.
I can
Yeah.
see that, yeah. Overall, what would you say you've learned about yourself as an artist over the course of creating this record?
I'm very neurotic and not a great planner.
I think that's
But
okay.
yes, weird combo. Yeah, it's okay. It worked out.
Yeah, I think some of the best work can come from not really having a plan and just letting yourself explore.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I I'm gonna do more of that next time and less of the neuroses, I hope. But let's just say.
I'm excited to hear new music in the future. How would you say that overall your writing process and your creative process has developed over the course of your career since you began in 2018?
Mm, hmm. I think it's become a tiny bit more collaborative. Uh, I'm still not like a huge or frequent collaborator at the moment, but my dear friend Logan, who I have known since 2018, actually, uh, has occasionally like sent me a demo of like a voice memo that I sent him before in a way that made me like really reimagine a song. And so I guess I'm just more open to letting a song uh not be finished for a really long time. Yeah.
Given that you give your music so much time to breathe and sit before you put it out, what is it like for you to decide specifically little decisions sonically? Like I know on Table you open with you talking a little bit at the beginning before it goes into the song.
So that's the other nice thing. Because I'm not a very proficient like engineer or very proficient musician, I do have to rely on my band to like make a lot of those micro decisions for me. And like I think the like little snippet of like me talking at the beginning of Table is I think Alberto Seawald, who produced the record, left that in there, and then they convinced me to leave it. I don't know. Sometimes I just decide that I don't want to make a decision about something that small, and I let the boys decide. And that's nice because sometimes I just don't know. And sometimes they don't matter also. They're not like huge decisions, but yeah.
I think it's a really cool thing, especially when you're very specific about the music to be able to let other people in and sort of let that collaboration come to life. So that's really cool.
Oh yeah, I mean like we've been working together for so long and we've toured together and I've lived in their houses and they are my dearest friends. So like at this point, if I don't trust them, I don't really trust anyone. So fortunately I do.
Do you have any crazy tour stories from touring with them over time?
I don't know which ones are crazy. So we're not very crazy dudes because none of us are big, like none of us can even drink that hard. We just like are all sleepy dudes. Uh Going on tour with Waxahachie in 2021 felt crazy to us because that was the first like real tour we'd ever been on. And like we loved that band so much, or I love Katy Crutchfield so much. And uh it was also like right it was like the first round of like tentatively everyone's touring again post like peak COVID. And so that was really weird to like be wearing masks all the time, to like not see friends that uh we were like when we were in town. And yeah, it was strange. Oh, We did meet Courtney Barnett in Arizona one time,
That's
and we
awesome.
were like, wow, this is the coolest thing that's ever happened to us. And we were not chill about it at all
I
because
don't
we were staying
blame
in the same hotel. Yeah, we were just like, no, because when we were in Arizona, I was like, what are you doing here? Like, you don't go here. This is Arizona, not Australia. She's Australian, right? Yeah. Uh, and then like a bunch of other like nice things happened that day. So we were like, this is a blessed day that we have seen Courtney Barnett. And she was like, sup. And that's it. That's that's the craziest one I can think of right now.
Oh yeah. I mean, I can't imagine what it was like navigating touring after COVID, especially at its peak and kind of having that time away from performing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It was, but I mean, like people were so psyched to be at a show. It was weird.
Absolutely. I missed shows so much during that time. I love concerts. The energy is just completely different from any other experience.
Yeah, it was really sweet. And like watching, and like we hadn't been to shows either, and just like watching Waxahachie play their set every night was so nice. And she would do this Gillian Welch cover that was so good, called Wrecking Ball. That's beautiful. Anyway, yeah.
If you weren't doing music, what do you think you would be doing right now?
I would maybe be teaching music. No, I wouldn't. I'm really not that good of a musician or much of a teacher. Uh, I don't know, substitute teaching English, maybe.
If you could collaborate with any artist, any in the world, who would you choose to do a collaboration with in the future?
Mm, I don't know. I really hope to talk Haley Hendricks into singing with me sometime. I saw her play live somehow for the first time, like a couple of months ago, and it was like more beautiful than I'd even expected. And like I'd heard her records. Yeah, anyway, I mean, that would be cool.
That's awesome, yeah. What do you ultimately hope that listeners take away from this record?
Mm, yeah. Oh, this is gonna sound so cheesy. I think if I had to say, it would be that um, loving someone or trying to love someone even is worth it more often than not. And even when it is a painful experience. Can you see this little dog right here?
Yeah.
Oh my God. This is Weenie.
Okay. How cute.
She's so cute. Um, but yeah, so I guess it's like I don't know. Even when it's not a great time, I don't know. It's like you still got to like love someone and see them and be close to them and like kiss and stuff. And like someday they're going to be dead. But you got to, for a brief moment, like be very close to another person. And I think most of the time, that in itself is like an intriguing enough prospect to give it a whirl. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that even when connections don't last, you can still learn so much from a person.
Yeah. Yeah. No, so true.
I
So you
under
might as well.
Yeah, I think it's a really beautiful thing no matter what.
Yeah, it's like being afraid of um oh, she's cold. Um sorry, I'm going to snuggle her so that she stops shivering. I think that yeah, I just think yeah, I guess it would be to encourage people to be slightly less afraid of getting hurt. Maybe.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because I got up and I'm fine now.
Yeah, honestly, caring about people is worth that risk in the end, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Or
Yeah,
at least something interesting will happen. Yes.
for sure. I have one last question, but ultimately, what would you say is your next big goal for your career and where do you see it going next?
I really don't know. So, like, honestly, between you and me, or I guess you can print this, but like, signing to Anti was like kind of the top of my bucket list of things that I never really thought I would accomplish. And so, like, now I kind of don't know what to do with myself. I'm a little bit confused as to what my goals are. I guess just do a good job on tour. But like, I just never thought I'd get this far. So I'm still kind of like adjusting to that whole thing. Hi. Yes.
Congratulations on signing to Anti, by the way. It's well deserved.
Yeah, well, I thank you so much. I really like them. They're like a very good label and people and stuff. It's wild. And I've just really admired the stuff that they've put out since like 2015
Yeah,
or like,
that's
yeah.
really important to find a good label that works with you well, so I'm glad that you found that.
Yeah. And they also have a bunch of old people on their label. So like, they're not going to kick me off when I turn 40. I
They
could die
definitely
on this label if I play my cards right.
you could. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I know that it was a long interview, but it meant a lot.
No
I really
worries at
love
all.
music.
It was a lovely time. Thank you for all the good questions.
Of course, yeah. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, you too. And have a good Christmas holiday season
Merry
and
Christmas
stuff.
early.
Merry Christmas early. All
Bye.
right, see you. Bye.